Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back to this Calls for Confetti's YouTube channel. I am happy to be back with the video design team and we are going to jump right into my project. So I have off screen gone ahead and used the Heart Bloom hot foil plate in my glimmer machine, and I went ahead and did some hot foiling, and on this particular one I've used some copper hot foil. On the second one that I bring in about 5-ish minutes, I've used the gold. Now this is on watercolor cardstock. The other one is on 110-pound Nina. So I just wasn't really sure what I was going to do with them because, in all honesty and transparency, I have always had a love-hate relationship with foiling of any sort, hot foiling or otherwise. So the reason that I did it off camera was because I just wasn't sure what result I was going to get and if I wanted to share it with you guys. This is always real life. I have never tried to hide anything from anyone on my channel or this, and that's not going to change. But also, if it was a total fail and I couldn't recover from it, I didn't want to share that with you until I was able to figure out a way to fix my fail. But they worked. They both worked. This plate hot foils beautifully. Now, I am no expert at foiling of any sort, so I can't say without honesty, but I believe that you can use the glimmer machine to hot foil with just about any kind of die, whether it's a hot foil plate, whether it's a press plate, whether it's a regular die. You're going to get very different results, and obviously you're going to need various amounts of pressure and yeah, I would say watch some other videos and just get that information, but that is a tidbit that I've learned along my way. So I'm just sharing my freshly learned knowledge with you, and I would encourage you to expand on that for your own processes and let me know what you find. I'm intrigued and excited to learn more. So moving past the foiling process, because again, I am no expert there, then we're going to step into the watercolor process, which again, I'm no expert, but I never let that stop me, to be fair. I will jump in with both feet into something I've never done before, and I just kind of figure it out. I find so much value in, I hate the word failure, right? I really do. But I find so much value in learning what not to do. And the only way to learn what not to do is to do the wrong things, And it's crafting, it's not life and death. So it's okay. It's definitely okay. I would just encourage you, show yourself grace and just play. If you come at it from that perspective, not looking for any type of perfectionist results or anything like that, just play. You will find value in that play. You will find learning in that play. And that's what I've done on this day. So I am using this watercolor palette. It is, I believe it's a 36 half pan, and I think it's from Arteza. But you can use whatever watercolors you have. Now, this particular paper is Arches Cold Press, but again, use what you have. Um, for the longest time, I would not use this pad because it was, quote, the good paper, and I didn't want to, quote, waste it. Well, it's only wasted if you don't use it. So I've decided it just stays on my desk right now. And if I'm going to do watercoloring, I'm using my Arches. So I'm enjoying it. Now, the paper that you use for the foiling and for the painting will give you different results. But again, the only way to know your paper and to know what results you're going to get is to play with it. So just jump in. Just jump in, right? No real expectations. Just play for the sake of learning. Play for the sake of creating. And if you can take it beyond that and make it into an actual project, then bonus, bonus. So on these particular leaves, you can see that I'm kind of going back and forth in terms of the color. I'm alternating the little segments with a lighter wash of green paint and then a darker wash of green paint and going back and forth. I don't know the names of the techniques that I use as I'm just literally just putting color down. I'm very happy with that. And I decided on this one I was going to go a little bit different. I'm not being so precise. Also, this is 110-pound Nina. It is not watercolor card, so I don't want to be messing with the fibers of this paper any longer than I have to. So I'm going pretty fast with this one for that very reason. I don't want to mess up the fibers of this paper. So just kind of laying down paper, or laying down paint. Something to keep in mind as you do this, as we've learned on many different mediums, wet on wet blends, wet on dry layers. Whether it's watercolor, whether it's distress inks, whether it's spray stains, no matter what it is. Wet on wet blends, wet on dry layers. So as I'm putting in that wet paint on top of other wet paint, you can see that it just blended. If I were to let it dry using my heat tool or otherwise and then go back, those colors would layer. So on these leaves, I'm doing them a little bit different. I'm keeping them all kind of in the yellow, greeny family. And I'm doing one side of the leaf one tone and the other side of the leaf another tone versus going segment by segment. There is no right or wrong because it's just the creative process. And this one, like I said, I was just doing different things so that I didn't have as much manipulation time on this cardstock because I don't want to mess up the fibers. So I'm happy with them both. The only thing that I might change if I were to revisit this and do it again is I would probably do some darker colors on the gold foiled image only because the gold is much lighter than the copper. And the copper, while it is obviously a darker metallic, the paints that I used are also darker. So it's a little more vivid, a little more vibrant than this one. This one comes out a little bit pale. Not right, not wrong, just what it is. So just adding a little bit deeper colors to the bases of the leaves, the bases of the flowers, and that's it. I will be done with this in just a moment, and I really like them both. Now the reason I'm moving that water around is because there was a big, kind of a dry spot there in the center of that middle petal, and the water just was creating like a well, basically. So here are my two images, copper on the right, gold on the left, and then I've pulled out some options from the Elusive Prints paper pad. Now these paper pads are 5.5 by 8.5 now. They used to be 6 by 6, but that has since changed. Now, once I made my decision on the pattern paper, I went to my stash of cardstock and I pulled out these three colors. I feel like all three of them go with both panels. I think this pattern is gorgeous. Now, keep in mind that I have colored these up or painted them up in an autumnal colorway, right? When this hot foil plate came out, it was intended for Valentine's Day, and every sample that I've seen done with this was created for Valentine's Day or birthday. I have seen it used on a birthday cake, and that was absolutely beautiful. I will try to link over to the Facebook group so you can see some of these other options over there on the Facebook group. Now, if you have not learned already, or if you don't know me from before, I am very much an imperfect crafter. I'm a messy crafter. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants crafter. I don't do a whole lot of planning or measuring. And so here you can see that I am just eyeballing everything. Now, not only did I pull out this cardstock from my stash, I also pulled out two pre-folded square, or almost square, craft card bases. These are just in my stash. They are not folded perfectly, so I have to go in and trim them down a little bit. And like I mentioned, they're also not fully square. So they're just off by, I don't know, maybe an eighth of an inch. Not a lot. But I am layering up my cardstock and then eyeballing the sizes to make sure that everything will fit so that the image will lay nicely on pattern paper, and the pattern paper will lay nicely on the card base. And then I also cut out another panel of cardstock to go on the back of my card base just to frame everything out. So this one has a brown and the other one will have that kind of olive green. So now I've mounted the card base to the background panel of the cardstock, and now here is where I'm laying down the pattern paper onto the card base. And then I've already glued 2 panels of cardstock together. So you just get this nice frame of that beautiful elusive print. And then I do that to both cards. And you can see that I used a little bit of a kind of a sunshine yellow to pull out the yellow on for the card on the right. And I think they're just so pretty. I'm loving where these are going. Now here I have pulled out the grateful and thankful sentiments from the Alice's Story Autumn Memories stamp set. I stamped and heat embossed them. Then I pulled out my dies and I went ahead and die cut them. Now what I don't show is I also die cut just some extra layers of just plain paper, and that is how I will provide some lift to those sentiments instead of using double-sided foam tape. So here I'm bringing in my vintage photo and I'm doing a little bit of ink blending around the edges of both of these heart images with the heart bloom hot foil plate pattern. I think they're absolutely beautiful. And again, if you guys know me at all, you know that I have to grunge them up. And so the ink blending is where the grunge starts. So smushed out that vintage photo, splattering it on both of the images, on the card panels, and what you don't see is I also do it on the insides and the back. Now here I've pulled out some copper Sukaneko. This is all-purpose ink. This is in the color bright copper because I want some copper on the gold card panel, and I wanted some gold on the copper card panel. So I also have some gold ink. You can see it there in the top right that I've splattered on both of them. And this is sheer shimmer spray. I'm just giving a couple spritz all over just to add one more layer of shimmer and shine. That is almost gone. I've had it for a number of years. So here I wanted to add just a natural element. I love adding some type of natural element to my projects. Maybe it's like a cotton lace, maybe it's going to be some sisal or twigs, or who knows. Maybe it's going to be moss or any number of things. But in this situation, I'm using this really cute, simple cotton lace, and I'm using my hot glue gun and going around the edges and just following the contour of that shape, bending it back a little bit so that it doesn't curl. And then I snip off the ends so that they go in line with the shaped image. And I've stacked them both up on some double-sided foam tape, and I use my liquid glue, that way I have wiggle room. And then I hold it down because it is buckling a little bit with that hot glue that I use to lay down the lace. So I just use the wet glue on the double-sided foam tape, and then I hold them both down for a second or two just to make sure that that glue takes. And then here's where I'm going to put some layers of the cardstock as well as the pattern paper on the inside of the cards and the back. So a couple things about that. One is it adds such interest and it's fun, and no one expects that. No one expects the splatter to be on the inside either. So I have started doing that in recent months, and I just think it's really fun. And I'm using my cardstock, y'all. Who has a hoard of cardstock and pattern papers and other things, and you're just afraid to use them? Well, just like I said with my Arches cold press, I'm using my stash. And I love the results, and I love that I'm using it. So what you didn't see is I came in with some confetti, and I added the confetti down on the front, and I also added a button with some twine just to the top right, and there you can see all of that beautiful splatter and the shine and just all of the goodness. Now this is kind of a folksy design, and that's why I thought that the lace and the button with the twine would go well with them. But those pattern papers are kind of unexpected because that's more for the Bigfoot images that we have at this Calls for Confetti. But I love the way that they play off of each other. And I love the fact that I used what was intended to be kind of a lovey-dovey Valentine's image for fall. Painted it up with those autumnal colors. I think it's absolutely beautiful. But guys, I thank you for spending this time with me here at this Calls for Confetti. I will link to everything downstairs in the description box. Make sure you jump over to the Facebook group. And until next time, this is Nancy, the Handy Scandy, for this Calls for Confetti. Mwah! And I'm out.